In the quietest corner of a suburban backyard, behind a rain barrel and a crack in the garden wall, there was a hidden place called Underroot Hollow. It was a tangled little world beneath the hedge, where roots curled like sleeping snakes, dewdrops clung to moss, and amber lanterns glowed softly in the dark. The place was looked after by a cluster of garden gnomes who wore leaf caps, twig buttons, and tiny, soot-smudged boots. By day, the humans watered roses, trimmed hedges, and looked over the fence without noticing a thing. By night, the gnomes came alive. They guided thirsty roots toward the well, polished pebble pathways, patched beetle tunnels, and listened politely when ants and ladybugs needed help settling their small disagreements. At the center of Underroot Hollow stood the oldest toadstool in the garden. It was wide as a stool and gentle as a lullaby. Its soft red cap was dotted with pale spots, and from its roots flowed the hidden spring that filled the gnome's well. Whenever the toadstool leaned a little, the lanterns burned brighter. Whenever it stood tall, the whole hollow felt safe and steady. On a damp evening in late summer, root keeper Bram came hurrying in with a pebble ledger under one arm and worry in his face. "The well sounds thinner," he said. The gnomes gathered in a circle. Pippa the lantern lighter held her wick a little tighter. Mossel the root tender pressed a hand to the earth. Even the beetles paused their work. They all looked toward the oldest toadstool. Its cap had lost some of its shine. A tiny edge had curled inward. Nothing dramatic, nothing frightening, but enough to make the hollow feel hushed. "Oh dear," whispered Pippa. The toadstool gave a very small, tired wobble, as if it was trying to smile anyway. Bram opened his ledger and read aloud the rules of Old Grove Care. "First, do not panic. Second, listen closely. Third, ask everyone who knows a little part of the answer." So the gnomes began their gentle work. Mossel visited the roots and found that they were dry on one side, where a stone had shifted after a summer storm. Pippa followed the lantern light to the well and noticed the water was clear but moving sluggishly. A pair of moths reported that the air had become too warm in one corner of the hollow. Even two snails, who usually spoke at the speed of dreams, mentioned that the soil near the toadstool felt tired. The insects gathered too. A beetle offered a polished shell to shade the roots. Ants carried little leaf cups of water. A ladybug suggested singing a soft, steady tune, because sometimes a place needed kindness as much as it needed care. Soon the whole hollow was busy in the calmest way possible. The gnomes slipped cool moss around the roots. They tucked fern fronds near the hot stone. They lifted pebbles to make a tiny channel so the spring could breathe again. Pippa hung 3 more lanterns, low and warm, and the light spilled over the toadstool like honey. Then Bram climbed onto a mushroom crate and addressed everyone. "This old guardian has carried our water for many seasons. Tonight we help it rest." The gnomes placed a ring of smooth acorns around the toadstool. The insects settled quietly nearby. The ants stopped marching. The beetles folded their shiny wings. The air filled with a soft, humming song, as if the roots themselves were listening. And the oldest toadstool did something wonderful. It straightened a little, not all at once and not like magic fireworks, but like a sleepy friend waking after a good nap. A tiny drop of clear sap gleamed at its stem. The well below gave a fuller, happier sound. Pippa smiled. "There," she said, "it only needed help and patience." Bram nodded. "And a good team." The gnomes did not cheer loudly. They only shared warm tea made from thyme and clover, while the insects returned to their homes and the lanterns glowed like little moons. Before bedtime, the hollow was peaceful again. The roots were shaded, the stone was settled, and the oldest toadstool rested comfortably in its ring of acorns. Above them, in the suburban house, the humans turned out their lights and drifted into sleep, never guessing that beneath their lawn, a tiny village had stayed awake to care for the garden.